Taking an idea from a product to the market in the UK. My name is Isaac, previous CTO of a funded startup, and I run the checkout team of Pretty Little Thing. Now, you may have noticed from my intros, I say previous CTO of a funded startup. That means I failed, so preface. I'm not speaking from a place of like, oh, this worked out, you should definitely do it. It's not that, but I can speak from a place of like, oh, this really went poorly for me and you should be aware. I have two experiences that I'm really making this video from, which was, I had an agency coming out of uni, which was a design and development agency, and then I had a tech startup a year or two ago, which was funded. So before going over my shortcomings, I'm gonna go through a little process of how to actually understand from taking an idea to the execution, what normally happens in between. Normally you have an ideation stage, which is like, okay, what's the idea? What am I doing? Next, you'd have a validation stage where you check, okay, is this thing actually possible that I'm trying to do? Then you have a take stock phase, which is, okay, I think it's possible. Can I do it? Am I capable of doing it? And then the fourth stage is feasible execution, which is how do we do it? For the validation stage, it's like, what makes you think it could work? Do you have numbers to back this up? Early in your career, it will be a little gut feeling because you're kind of just gonna have to go off what you think. You're not really gonna understand some of the numbers stuff too much. When we had the agency, we wanted to predominantly do design and development. There were a couple of people doing design, but for the demographic, there was no real development services. We didn't see any websites and stuff like that. So we kind of saw that as an opportunity. Looking back, we didn't really do any proper market analysis, but that was just kind of what we observed and we went for it. The startup that I had, I joined during their seed funding round. So they actually did have a pitch deck. They went to investors. They had data to back up what they were doing, and they had some pre-existing customers. If you're not familiar with how startups work, when you go for an investment, you take a pitch deck, which is basically a slideshow presentation of everything to do with like market data, where you're situated in the market, and it's basically your chance to prove to the investors that they're not wasting their money. When they give you money, they're giving you money because they think there's going to be a return, and you need to use empirical data to prove or suggest that yeah, you are going to get a return because the company's going to grow. If you're unsure about what you're doing, look up pitch decks online, maybe try and make your own just to validate the idea to yourself when you put it in writing. In my opinion, you don't need to go crazy with this, you just kind of need to know if the opportunity is compatible with what you want, and I'll go over that a little later in the video. The take stock stage, do you have what it takes skill-wise? Do you know people that are good at the skills you're bad at? As a technical person, I always partnered with people that were great at sales or marketing. The startup, the CEO was great at sales and he had a really good network, so it worked out well. You can learn these things yourself, and actually the further that I'm getting on in my career and where I want to go next, I've kind of realized I want a little bit more control. I'm actually deliberately working on upskilling areas I'm not great at, so like sales and marketing. However, for most people, if you kind of just want to hit the ground running, it is good to specialize and partner with people that cover that. It kind of depends what you want. Are you liquid right now? Do you have the money to fund it? Do you have a good network? Could you get the money to fund it? And then after that, you have the feasible execution stage, which is like, right, so if we have all these things, can we do it? For the startup that I had, we had 200K in funding, so that brings a lot of these things physically possible because none of us actually were in a position we could have worked for free. We took a pay cut, but now it's like, okay, feasibly we can't execute. The agency I had way back when after uni, me and my friend lived at our parents' house, so it was like, we could just do whatever. Okay, this part of the video, I'm going to be talking about my shortcomings and the lessons that I learned from the journeys that I had. The main one, which you kind of keep learning this and it keeps changing because you change as a person, but incompatible vehicles. The agency that I worked at, I realized during that process I was incompatible, and I use the word incompatible because neither of us were wrong. It's not that the agency was bad, it's not that I was bad, it's that I fundamentally didn't want what it was giving me. It's a tricky one because you kind of won't know unless you try, but you can use some maths to kind of ballpark it for yourself. When you have your business, what is it you're actually trying to do with it? Do you want prestige? Do you want money? Do you want time? Like, what are you looking for? If you can have an idea in your head of the number that you want to make, let's say like in a year, you can kind of pick any numbers because the only thing that really limits you is your number. It could be like 1 million, it could be 10 million. If you wanted to make that number, like how many projects would you have to do to hit that mark? How many hours would those projects take? How many cold calls or whatever your funnel is for getting the sales, like how long would it take to sell the people on the project to get that? How many people would you have to hire to fulfill it? Because likelihood is you don't have the hours in a day. Even if you work 24 hours, you wouldn't be able to do it, okay? When you start doing these calculations in your head, you start realizing how much work is going to take to get what you want out of it. If you like the work, it doesn't really matter. I wouldn't even think about the numbers if you just enjoy doing it and you want to upskill yourself, especially early on in your career. I do remember my co-founder and I just sat down at one point. We were just like, this is stupid. I don't want to do this no more. I wouldn't have really known if I hadn't done it before, but definitely if I'd have done this maths before starting it, I either wouldn't have started the agency or I would have set it up differently. We did not charge a lot for our time, to be honest, so no wonder we hated it. We both came from pretty humble beginnings, so I think to us charging money felt like, oh, it's such an obscene amount. Whereas looking back now, it's like business owners that have money don't want problem solved. Like they're not going to care about a few extra grand. But you know, that's another lesson you learn, right? Pricing. And if we'd have done the math, we would have known, okay, we need to price higher. And what I'm learning now about pricing, I could have learned a lot earlier if I'd actually sat down and figured these things out. Second shortcoming, and probably the main one that I'm planning on taking to my future ventures, which is selling more than you build. The startup that I was at, we were kind of a build focused team. It's not that we didn't have the skill sets to sell. Our CEO was actually pretty good at that. It was that when we were doing this, we focused a lot on building a product which could have the user base that we wanted, and not necessarily working on building a community of the user base and then serving them with a product. Another reason maybe this didn't work out for us is when we first got funding, we were actually in a little bit of a boom in the market. It was sexy tech. It was when all the stocks were going up. It was the bullish market. Bitcoin, like everyone was getting funded. If you had some decent tech on your side, you could use buzzwords in your pitch deck, and you had contacts with an investor, you could get money, which we did. And I think because we were in this phase and have been for the past few years, the whole idea was we don't necessarily need to make money off our customers. We just need to get interest. We need to get people on the platform. And then as long as we have this data, we can go back to investors and make more money. The idea being we don't waste time trying to make profit. We just keep scaling until we can sell and get the big payoff later on. Between the first funding round and the second funding round, the economy kind of went to shit. We've still not recovered. COVID happened, all that nonsense. As such, like I said, we didn't focus on actually making any profit. So when we weren't making any money and then tried to go for the next funding round, it didn't go well. So there's definitely a few lessons in there, but one of the things that I think was interesting is the idea that we originally started with, we ended up pivoting from because we didn't feel like the user pool was big enough. Now, looking back, I actually really think that idea could have been a 7-figure business and we could have built on top of it because the marginal cost of adding people was really low, which means we would have had a lot of profit to reinvest and we kind of would have been stable. Had we gone down that route, we'd probably still be going, which is kind of funny to think. The reason we pivoted is because we wanted an app with 50,000 people because that is how you get the big sale in the end. So we kind of traded the short-term gains and the stability for the future, which is the whole thing of like a bird in the hand is worth two in the nest. I think that's probably the biggest lesson I've actually had on this, you know? If you think of it like a video game, like take a little detour if it gets you to a checkpoint, because it realistically would have been, if you can make profit in a sustainable way, you got money coming in, your options extend so much, you don't have to stop there, and it is a little bit of an inconvenience to get to where you're going, but it really does add like a layer of safety. I just know for next project, like I want to be more focused on selling necessarily than building, like get something people definitely want and are using and then serve them. And then finally, which is kind of like a branch off of that, is get a working model before scaling. Size always adds problems. There's kind of no ways around that. I saw this particularly on the technical side. There was a point where I remember I was very stressed with all the development I was having to do. And I took a step back and I realized like, yo, we actually have more features than users because we kept adding to it to make it desirable to people and switching. Because we kept pivoting to bigger opportunities and having to switch demographics, like we kept adding things to this app to make it more desirable. In the end, I would be working on the latest feature that we're doing, and a feature that I made 3 months ago that I haven't touched since broke. This would just happen all the time. Something would go wrong. The problem being is I didn't really take the time to fully stress test the things that we'd built. So we didn't have the users coming in. We didn't really flesh it out and sell on it for too long. We kind of just kept expanding. We were aiming for speed because the clock wasn't really on our side, and I kind of don't think we had a choice in the sense of we did need to move fast, and actually we kind of needed to move faster. I think the problem is maybe we didn't understand how long it would have taken. We didn't have enough time anyway. But this works for business as well, because if you have an internal system that works for 5 people, like don't scale it to 20 arbitrarily, like actually sit with it, work with it. I'm not saying don't be quick, because you kind of do need to be quick in business, but being quick often means for a lot of people ignoring or skipping some of these the boring minutia of, have you actually tested this properly? You can do it quicker, there's ways that you can test it, but we often skip it because we think there's more important things on, and it's just tech debt, really. That I'm actually explaining tech debt. But you can have business debt as well, and it's basically just keep shit clean, stay on top of it. Things normally don't get easier unless you deliberately have had a hit for some reason. Things are just gonna get busier, they're gonna get bigger, and they're gonna get hard to manage. Try and neaten this shit up as you go along. Every time you ignore something that you should be doing, you are accruing a debt, and I think that just taught me like what kind of things I shouldn't be ignoring. Okay, cool. That was just my experience, but I do hope it was useful for someone out there. If you know someone who's currently trying to take a product from ideation to execution, please send them this video so they can make a better decision. Thanks, guys.